All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon. Let's talk a little bit more boxing. In this video, we're going to talk about what Gervonta Tank Davis bragged about with Shawn Porter and their sparring session that took place. I'm telling you, man, I've been watching boxing a long time, and the tide is changing, the culture is changing, and honestly, man, I don't mind. People are talking about what happened in sparring like it really matters. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. So Gervonta Tank Davis was recently in an interview, getting interviewed for his fight coming up on Sunday, December 5th, a Sunday pay-per-view against Isaac Cruz of Mexico. I do believe he's from Tijuana, Mexico, or Mexico City, Mexico. But Isaac Cruz, Little Pit Bull, people call him Little Mike Tyson. The fight is coming up, a replacement for Rolly Romero. And he was asked about his preparation for the fight and specifically what took place when he was sparring Shawn Porter, who is, if you're not familiar, also in a very good pay-per-view fight coming up this Saturday, November 20th, against Terence Bud Crawford in Las Vegas. And Gervonta Tank Davis did not hold back. He's not a loud, boisterous guy, but he pretty much let you know what happened. And he said, yeah, started smirking. He's like, yeah, he knows me now. He said knows me now. He knows I'm one of the best. And he started smirking. Eyes started lighting up about sparring. He didn't give all the details of it. But if you know Gervonta Tank Davis and you listen to him, he was being pretty much straightforward. Like, yeah, I sparred him. I dominated him in sparring, and now he knows for sure that I'm one of the best fighters in the world. And, you know, I did a video yesterday also where this other young kid whose name is Brian Norman had talked about, or the rumor was running around about how he did a lot of good work with Errol Spence Jr. And the response that I get from you guys is pretty consistent. That, you know, older guys are always who point out to the fact like, look, man, it's just sparring. What happens in sparring stays in sparring. And, you know, that's kind of what the culture, you know, used to be, or the culture should be. But in the social media era, that is just not what it is, man. People are getting their names mentioned, getting people to know about them based on what they're doing in sparring and the rumors that they have swinging around about how they're doing against world-class fighters. And honestly, man, I'm going to tell you, I don't think it's a bad thing, really. If these guys can use sparring as a way to get their name out there and kind of, let the world know about them, just so be it, man. It's not, nobody's going to actually be able to see it. It's not really going to be affecting, the mainstream of boxing, the media, the mainstream media, who's getting the fights and all that. But for hardcore fans like us, it has been a way to get introduced to some younger fighters that you might not have heard of, right? Same thing happened with Errol Spence Jr. when Errol Spence Jr. was fighting against, not fighting, but sparred Floyd Mayweather Jr. and he sparred Adrian Bronner. It kind of created a legend about him, and then he gets out there. But this Gervonta Tank Davis thing against Shawn Porter, that is something else that kind of worries me. Now, the question that a lot of people had was, why would these guys spar one another? And Gervonta Davis did not answer that question, but I don't think it's too difficult to see why they sparred one another. First is, Barry Hunter is in the corner of both of these guys, and he's a consultant. It seems like he's a consultant for Shawn Porter's camp, and he's been there before, helping him game plan and get stuff together for certain fights. If I recall correctly, he helped him game plan for Errol Spence Jr. Because Errol Spence Jr. had fought Lamont Peterson before, so they had some familiarity with him in a ring in a real pro fight. So he helped Shawn Porter prepare for Errol Spence Jr. fight, and Errol Spence Jr. And Shawn Porter put on a good fight against Errol Spence Jr. So he's still in the corner, still working with Shawn Porter, and he's also coming out of Baltimore, out of DC in that same area of Gervonta Davis. He also, I do believe, works with and knows Gervonta Davis. So those guys said, "Hey, let's get together, let's get some work." And Gervonta Davis said, "Okay, yeah, I'll do some work with him." The benefit for Gervonta Davis and sparring Shawn Porter, I do believe, is that the guy that he's fighting is a shorter stature guy who's a come forward fighter, who's going to try to rough you up, try to throw a lot of punches. So Shawn Porter can definitely emulate that style, because that's essentially what he is, without necessarily having a tremendous punch. But I'm sure he hits hard as Isaac Cruz does, who's down at 135 pounds. The same thing would apply for Gervonta Davis and Terence Crawford. Gervonta Davis fights out of the southpaw stance. There's going to be large amounts of time when Terence Crawford fights out of the southpaw stance. So I'm sure that those are the things that they were thinking, and just getting that world-class competition inside a ring to keep you sharp. I mean, what better sparring would there be than guys that are both at the championship level, Gervonta Davis and Shawn Porter, man. But Gervonta, man, I don't know, man. I just why. I don't know why he felt it necessary to let them know that he got Shawn Porter. But as far as what that means, if the guys are going to actually fight, these guys have headgear on. They're working on different things in the ring. A lot of times, I don't know about the scenario with Shawn Porter and Gervonta Davis, because they are not, they're not sparring partners for one another. They sparred. Where, in the instance where Terence Crawford might have had a rough fight with Brian Norman. Who knows? Brian Norman might have been the third or fourth guy to get in the ring with Shawn Porter, with Terence Crawford. While Terence Crawford is sparring, 15 rounds, he may spar 3 at the end of the 15 rounds, and so Terence Crawford is already tired and have fought several other styles, while Brian Norman jumps in the ring fresh. So there's a lot of variables that come into play when you try to analyze what's going on with people in sparring. But for the people that say that it's just these young guys doing this, please remember that Terence Crawford also did the same thing to Shawn Porter, and talked about how Shawn Porter had a hard time in sparring with Jose Benavidez, right? And when Jose Benavidez was coming up and was a young 147 pounder, man. So, but I'm not going to put, I don't put too much into it. I don't really think, this doesn't mean that if Gervonta Davis moves up to 100 and 147 pounds that he's going to beat Shawn Porter, or that he could compete with the same guys that Shawn Porter was competing with at 147. It's just kind of like a special circumstance, and I don't think you can read too much into it. But again, I don't mind it, because I'm a fan of boxing, and there's some things that are happening that are where things are changing in boxing, and things are taking place that I don't necessarily like the UFC matchups with, the UFC boxing mixed matchups. Not a big fan of that. Definitely not a big fan of this Jake Paul thing, where Jake Paul is really acting like he's a boxer, but he's outside of boxing fighting guys, not even in his weight class. And I'm not a big fan of that. However, if these young guys can get their names out, and we can have interesting conversations about what happened with matchup and sparring, I'm not against it, man. And it is what it is. It's just something else to talk about to keep you interested in boxing in between the times that you actually get to see the fight. If you are a subscriber to this channel and you watch this channel on a regular basis, more than likely you're a hardcore boxing fan. So you're always looking for something new to talk about, something to see in the game of boxing, because it's what you love, right? So people do the same thing in basketball when they start talking about who's gossiping about people's wives and all of that nonsense too. So at least boxing's not at that stage. Anyway, that's my take on the matter. Just another curious conversation to have. Hey, let me know what you think in the comment section about it. If you're just totally annoyed with stupid stuff like this, that's fine. Put it in the comment section. Let me know. We'll chop it up in the comment section, provided you're not, being overly rude in it. But anyway, for sure, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share the video. I'd greatly appreciate it. And with that, I'm out. Peace.